Welcome to the Aftermath of Sexual Trauma with Shantae Dent. Today's episode is particularly special during the month of May where we celebrate Mother's Day. And we're talking about motherhood and trauma. I have two phenomenal, spectacular guests with me today. My own children, Howard Dent the Fourth and Charlie Denise Dent. I am super excited. I'm elated. I didn't make them do this. I asked them if they would like to participate, and I told them what today's episode was all about, and they willingly said yes. So I'm excited to have them on with me. Today we're gonna have a conversation from my perspective, from their perspective, and it's really about being a parent when you have experienced trauma. I have to say, being a mom, any of you moms out there, it's not the easiest job. It takes a lot of time and dedication and intentionality. We have to be intentional about what we do and what we say. And I am a firm believer, at least now. I've had some pitfalls. I've learned a lot along the way. But I've learned that if I want to be a healthy mom, considering my past of sexual violation, I have to be intentional about what I do. I have to parent on purpose. I have to parent from a place of faith and not fear. I have to parent without being paranoid. And so I'm going to share a few things, again, from my personal experience, and then I'm going to have my children chime in and just share their heart about the subject matter. So it dawned on me early on, and probably in particular when I had a daughter, I realized that I wanted to make sure she was safe, and I wanted to make sure that she was protected. So I had to make sure that, if she went somewhere, that I asked all those questions, like who's going to be there? And you remember what mommy and daddy talked to you about regarding the healthy boundaries. My husband and I decided early on that we would be open and upfront with them about their body parts, not using nicknames, and making sure they had a very clear understanding of what appropriate touch was and what it was not. And at the end of the day, not forcing them to give hugs, to people and things of that nature. And so I've also noticed another area where when I felt as if my children, let's say they didn't follow a particular instruction or they weren't listening for whatever reason, I would I'll use this term, abnormally angry and frustrated internally. I'm not like a huge screamer or yeller. Like, I can raise my voice, I can talk stern, but naturally I don't just yell, at my kids. But I realized that there were seasons where I would just get so angry, like, why are they not listening to me? And I like to self-evaluate. I like to check myself. I like to get to the root of why. I'm not perfect. None of us are. But I do strive to progress. And so when I feel like there's an issue in my life, or if someone brings it to my attention, I do take some think time and I sit and I try to figure out, okay, what's going on? What's the root to that? What's the root to this behavior, Shantae? And one day I did. I slowed down and I thought, why do I feel so angry and upset when my kids don't listen? And again, it's abnormally angry, abnormally upset. And I realized it's because I felt as if when they weren't listening, it reminded me of the person who violated me. It made me think about the fact that he wasn't listening and he wasn't respecting me when I said something, when I gave him instructions. He didn't honor what I said, and the outcome was I was violated. I walked away wounded. And even though my children clearly are not the violator, they're not the perpetrator, when they wouldn't listen, I would go right back to that place emotionally. Like, here I go again, where someone is not listening to me and they're disrespecting me. And I realized that was the root of the anger. And so I had to be intentional. that when it came to interacting with my children and disciplining them, that I was not doing my interacting and my disciplining from a place of pain, but I did it from a place of parenting on purpose. And what would my purpose be? Well, to discipline them so that they are individuals that grow up learning how to be, successful adults, learning how to follow healthy instructions, and just wanting to set them up to succeed in life, and letting that be the focal point, making sure they know how to think and use wisdom. And so I realized, I'm probably not the only mom out there who dealt with this. And again, it also filtered through just wanting to make sure my kids were safe and protected without being paranoid or smothering them, because we've heard these stories. You do extra, you do too much as a parent, and the time they turn 18, they run out that door and they never turn back. And so I realized I want to continue to cultivate a healthy relationship with my children. So I had to give attention. And I feel the most beautiful component about all of this is being able to talk to my children about it, being able to sit down and say to them, hey, I know there were times where I just went in, that whatever you did was probably on a level 3. And then mommy responded on a level 9 or a level 10. And I helped them understand my triggers. I helped them understand the roots. And I honestly let them know I'm working on this area. I love you, and I don't want my past to negatively affect my parenting style. So right now, I just want to, allow my children to share their heart. Charlie, Howard, thank you all for joining Mom today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Awesome. I'm so happy. So, there are some moms, you guys have heard what I've been talking about, who have a history like mommy, where sexual violation is in their past and they may struggle. And then there's some kids out there who's, they may have a hard time understanding their mom's past. And again, this could be for a dad as well, who's had a past of sexual violation. So how do you guys feel when mommy talks to you guys about the why? Even internet safety or going to someone's house, I'll say, well, how was it? Did you have fun? But then I also, well, did anyone touch you inappropriately? How does that make you guys feel when I have those conversations? Who wants to go first? Howard, you first? Okay.
It makes me feel like you really care about my safety, and that you don't want the same thing to happen to us like it did happen to you. And I really like that you did that, because some parents, they just don't do that. Mm-hmm. So I love that you do that to us every time we go someplace.
All right. What about you, Charlie?
Same thing as Howard, and that you actually actually care about us, in case, for example, you only don't for birthday parties, if it's not someone you don't really know that much, you stay there with us. And so, for example, someone you know really well and they have kids that we know really well, you probably will always have a sleepover at that, and you would ask us those questions.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of those questions, I've, as much as I love my family, and here's something that I had to kind of get over myself. I love my family, I love my parents, but I had to focus on the concept and not the person. So there are even times where I'll just randomly ask, are you guys comfortable with grandma and grandpa? Are you comfortable with, Papa and Lena? And initially I would just go, oh my gosh, I don't want to ask those questions because I'm almost setting it up to seem awkward. But then I realized it's not about, setting any scenario up to feel awkward for my children. It's about setting a situation up so that my children will be comfortable talking to me about anything, regardless to who is involved. So again, in my situation as a child, family members were involved, cousins were involved. And I just wonder, I know everyone has a different story, but if it were a stranger, would I have spoken up, sooner? But in my case, it was family members, and the threats were there. If you say something, you're going to get in trouble. And as a child, you take on these threats and you believe them wholeheartedly. And you also, in a sense, want to protect the violator and the perpetrator. And so, for that matter, as loving as my family is, I let my children know that honestly, like, it doesn't matter who it is. If anyone does or says anything that causes you to feel uncomfortable or something that's not appropriate according to those boundaries, let mommy know. And here's another thing that I share with Howard and Charlie. I will believe you. Mommy and daddy, we will believe you. We will never say, oh, that didn't really happen. We will believe you. We will follow up. And so I want to pass the baton back to you, Howard and Charlie. Do you guys have any questions or anything you want to say about the subject matter, or anything else that you want to add to what mom's already shared? Maybe you have some words for some mommies out there. Anything on your heart?
Always stand up for yourself and be brave.
All right now. Good advice, Charlie. Thank you. What about you, Howard?
Well, I think that if this happened, for me personally, pretty much the same as Charlie, but yeah.
Okay. So be bold, speak up for yourself, always speak up for yourself. And this is a short segment, but the point is, I want you moms out there or any parent to understand it's normal to have those concerns. It's normal to, have those fears. I want to encourage you to not allow those fears to control your parenting style. I want to encourage you to be intentional, and use wisdom. And again, not parent from a place of fear, but parent from a place of faith. And lastly, my husband and I also make sure that these are not one-time conversations with our children. We have regular check-ins where we will talk about what may be, normally uncomfortable for some parents to talk about, sex and things of that nature, and what's appropriate and what's not. And we openly have these discussions. And again, we have them often because we want it to be a normal and very comfortable conversation with our kids. We can't predict the future, and I'm told that the hardest or probably the most difficult times in parenting are the teenage years, and we're not there yet. We're close to the preteen, but we're not there yet. And so I'm not trying to give you the perfect formula and being the greatest parent of all with trauma in your past. I'm sharing just a few things that we do as parents, a few things that I've had to do as a mom with sexual trauma in my past, so that I can enjoy parenting and my children can enjoy their childhood without feeling like their mom was always paranoid because of her past. So I hope there's something about today's segment that was beneficial to you all. Howard and Charlie, I love you all so much, and thank you again for joining Mommy on today's episode.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. See you in the next episode.